Partney with the Northwest Oklahoma City Chamber, and on behalf of the Chamber and the Bethany Tribune, we are pleased to bring you the annual, or as often as they have elections, I guess biannual, candidate forum for the Bethany City Council. And we are very pleased this evening to have with us Scott Mitchell, who is the host of News 9's Your Vote Counts and The Hot Seat. So he's very used to managing unruly talkers and keeping up with time. So we are delighted to have him with us as our moderator this evening. Folks in the audience, you are welcome to write your questions on the note cards that have been provided. We will continue to take those up until 7 o'clock. By that time, we should have plenty of questions to get us through. We will wrap everything up around 8. And with that, I will turn this over to Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much for it. I'm delighted to be here. It is nice to see you all out. Usually, I think the last time I was here 2 years ago, it was snow day or something, so this is very nice. Very pleased to be here. This event sponsored by the Northwest Oklahoma City Chamber and the Bethany Tribune. Thank you for sponsoring, and thank you for coming out. There's nothing closer to the people in a city council election, and nothing that's more thankless, I can assure you that. But I had a dad who was city council for many years before he went to the legislature, and let me tell you, the legislative job is easier because you got a lot of things you're dealing with in a city, and salute to all of you who put yourself out there in these days, because politics this day is tremendously difficult, so you have to be very careful when you get out there and start dealing with people. All right, so here's our format tonight. I'm going to go through, and I believe, Jill, each individual gets a minute to introduce themselves.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. That's inflation from last time, I think. So we'll do that right now. We'll go through. Then we're going to have a debate or a discussion. I love that word better. To talk about these particular issues. We're going to be answering until, I guess, 7 o'clock. People can still write questions that we can ask the folks, which is this old-timey way of doing it, but it's also the very best way to do it, not doing it on Twitter, but doing it face-to-face. And then we'll have closing statements, and then we'll be out of here around 8 o'clock, something like that. Where are we going to go eat when we're done? I'll be working on that one, because, where's that?
We got all kinds of places down 39th Street.
I'll do anything for food. So this is when we start advertising for the Bethany restaurants. So that's economic development right there, okay? Support your local restaurants. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the folks that have been so kind to offer themselves to you, the voters. And we're Cox Channel 20, I believe, is carrying this for you folks that are watching on cable. Well, howdy. Glad to have you on here. All right, let's start with Ward 1. That would be right over here. All right, we'll start with Ward 1. The candidates are Robert Helton and Amanda Sandoval. Let's start with the ladies first. Ms. Sandoval.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Sandoval. I am candidate for Bethany City Council Ward 1. My vision for Bethany includes economic development, infrastructure, and community involvement. So economic development, pushing more businesses to not only survive in Bethany, but to thrive in Bethany. Infrastructure, pushing more projects like 23rd Street revitalization, pushing them to flourish. And community involvement, not only getting people out to vote, but getting them involved in community events like these. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Mr. Helton.
Hello, I'm Robert Helton. I've lived in Bethany for 20 years. I'm hoping for economic development also, parks improvements, and I hope to be with the City Council in this exciting time for the city.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Ward number 2. And it's my tradition to start with ladies first, so we'll begin with Ms. Holloway.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Holloway, Ward 2 candidate, and I am a 60-year resident of the city of Bethany in Ward 2. I am a graduate of Leadership Bethany, Citizen Academy Leadership Training graduate. I'm a certified municipal official. What that means is I've gone to classes. It's continuing education to learn more about cities and how to work within the city and help cities. I was on the Bethany Public School Foundation for 20 years. I was on the city council for 20 years. I support the schools. I support the citizens. I do support the city and the fact that I want to keep it a viable city. I want to keep our own police department. I want to keep our own fire department, our own water plant, our own sewage plant, our own solid waste. I want to be sure that we go into the future with economic development. I do support that there's a TIF plan in place or that they're working on. I will study that and look at that and support that if it looks like that it will be good for the city. There's things that you always have to look at. There was a TIF in the past that I voted against. It wasn't quite ready yet, and that is actually being redone. I do support the comprehensive plan also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Thank you so very much. All right. Next up, Matthew Goodwin. Mr. Goodwin.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Goodwin, and I am a third-generation resident of the city of Bethany. I have two daughters that are in Bethany Elementary School and love this city. My day job, what I do during the week, is I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Oklahoma Humane Society, and before that, the Executive Director for the Bella Foundation. So working in the nonprofit arena, specifically in animal welfare for these past 6 years, building bridges between foundations and nonprofits and municipalities, and has been some, I think, neat experience and viable experience to prepare for this role. I love this city. My wife works for the University of Oklahoma, and we had a chance earlier this year to decide whether we wanted to move there to that community, which is also a great community. But our hearts are here, and we wanted to be a part of the things that are going on. There's been a lot of momentum over the past couple of years, some exciting things happening, and we wanted to be a part of that and plan to keep our roots here into the future.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Next in Ward 2, Gary Miller. Mr. Miller.
Yes, I am Gary Miller. I am a resident of Bethany, Oklahoma. Have been for 15 years, give or take, ever since I came to SNU to go to college. Some 40-plus members of my family have gone to that institution under one name or another over the past 60-some-odd years. So we have deep roots in the area. My parents met at school there. My brothers and sisters all met their spouse at school there. I was not so fortunate. But in either case, have been in Bethany a long time and would like to improve the tax base, bring in more economic development to Bethany so that we can do more for the residents of this city than we are currently able to with the revenue we have. I also like to increase transparency in city government because I think transparency is just about everything. Transparency and integrity is about all you have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, now we'll shift to Ward number 4 and begin with Mr. Bill Aycock.
As you said, my name is Bill Aycock. My wife and I moved to Bethany about 2.5 years ago, so I'd say I'm kind of the newcomer of the group here. But we bought our first house here and have no intention of going anywhere else anytime soon. We absolutely love this community and want to see it succeed and thrive. Pretty much right away, we got involved with the 23rd Street group, Vision 23, working to start cleaning that area up, bringing in new business. So naturally, one of my key parts of my platform is economic development. Sales tax is the backbone of the city. We're seeing so much revenue going out to Yukon, War Acres, the surrounding Oklahoma City area. We've got to really work to bring in new businesses, to retain the businesses we have, and to help build up the businesses that we have to make them more successful.
Thank you, sir. And our last candidate in introductions, Mr. S.R. Hunter. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you. My name is S.R. Hunter. I've been a resident of the city of Bethany for 19 years. I was with the Bethany Fire and Rescue for 27 years, 23 of those years as an officer, and I was very proud to serve as your fire chief for the last 4 years of my service. I obtained my master's degree from SNU. I have an anchor in this city. I'm concerned about the prosperity and the future of this city. And I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. I'm going to be a strong voice, a consistent voice, an honest voice for the constituents of Ward 4 and the rest of this city, and I'm going to support wholeheartedly the administration and the staff of this city that does most of the work. And I'm going to cast my vote, and with the hopes that the people that have entrusted me and those individuals that do their job very well every single day, that we can move forward and make Bethany a better place to live and to work and to play. That's kind of our motto. So let's give her 100% and try to get that accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's opening statements. We'll go back down. We'll just start and go back the other way, and we can. I'm going to ask several questions. Again, you can send your questions in until about 7:45, I do believe, and I'll ask some questions with 30 seconds and some with 60. Let me start with the very first one. This will be moderator question number 1. Start with you, Mr. Hunter. What is the single most important issue in this upcoming election? And let's do 1-minute answers on this round of questions. Mr. Hunter.
Well, that's a difficult question to answer when you only want me to identify one thing. It's difficult to identify one particular element or one particular issue that's more important than the others, but I think at this moment in time, we need to consider the direction that the city of Bethany is going, the small geographical area that we have to work with, the limited tax base. We need to look for new opportunities, new development, to encourage people to come to Bethany, to live in Bethany, to prosper in Bethany. And with that, I think when we do a good job, profits come along with that. And in this case, profits meaning increased sales tax revenues, where we can continue to improve our infrastructure and provide the services and the things that the city needs, and keep us from having to go to another city to get our needed day-to-day goods.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Aycock, same question. What is the single biggest issue in this coming election?
Well, as I said in the introduction, it's economic development, in my opinion. With sales tax revenues, with seeing money going out of the city to other areas, we've got to increase our economic development. We've got to bring in more businesses to generate more sales tax revenue for the city so that we have money to work on all the other things. I am very passionate about public safety, about infrastructure, beautification of our city, improving the quality of life for our residents. But if we don't have the money to fund it, none of those things can happen. So really focusing on economic development, I think, is one of our main issue for the city right now.
Thank you, Mr. Aycock. Moving to Ward 2, we'll start with you, Mr. Miller. The single biggest issue in this election?
I would echo what they have said. We need to increase economic development in the city so that we can increase our tax base. I have heard somewhere that War Acres has about half the population of Bethany and twice the sales tax revenue, which accounts to us needing to be 4 times as efficient currently to get the same level of services they have. So we need to increase our tax base, bring more business in, and do things to attract businesses, and so that we can improve our infrastructure and do things to help the residents of the city of Bethany.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Goodwin, same question. Most important issue?
Yes, thank you. And that stat about Ward Acres is a great stat, and listed that in the first forum that we had here at the table. But I believe one of the key things is planning, and is the Comprehensive Plan 2030. There was widespread listening sessions and involvement from around the community to set forth a plan to do these things that have been mentioned through infrastructure and business development and beautification, safety, and all of these things. And it's a rough blueprint, but have to work with the council and the city staff to set up action steps for those things to become a reality. So it is not just a piece of paper, and again, in another 20 years saying, oh, well, we need to fix that, or these are key things. There has to be a plan for that is tangible, and we have to support that. And that wasn't always supported by the council person that was in Ward 2 that we're running against, and it's very important that moving forward that be supported.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holloway, your question, 60 seconds again for most important issue.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that on the Comprehensive Plan 2030, I was on that committee, and the only reason that I voted no on the comprehensive plan it was because it has Eldon Lyon Park in jeopardy of institution or other entities other than the citizens of Bethany having access to the park. They was an institution that actually had a presentation and showed us what they wanted to do. And I am not for that. I just want to be honest with you and upfront. That's the Citizens Park, and I want us to be able to keep it. I am for the comprehensive plan 99%. But that we're going to be looking at that comprehensive plan too, and maybe I can get that out, and then I'll be 100% for it. But anyway, I am also, the most important issue, I believe, is new computers for City Hall and upgrading our encode system for our billing system. If we don't do that, we're going to be in trouble with our billing. We cannot go ahead and upgrade our encode system until we get new computers and new servers so that we can take care of those issues. We also need water wells.
Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Ms. Sandoval, most important issue in this election.
Alrighty, so I believe we need to focus on growing our city. More than anything, that family means introducing your young families, incentive businesses to come to Bethany and be able to compete with other cities our size and become and develop an independence, comparing other cities like War Acres, Oklahoma City, becoming Bethany our own city. And then making schools the backbone of our neighborhoods again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hilton.
I believe economic development is the solution, but I think the biggest issue in this coming up is the leaves. The city is basically a forest, so having trash pickup for the leaves should be the rule and not the exception.
All right, I noticed that you had these beautiful new rolling bins here in town. Every city goes through that. It's an interesting opening. A question from our audience. We'll start with you, Mr. Elton, and go back down this way. How about 30 seconds in this? Would you support a recycling program, and what would be your plan?
I think with the recycling, we would have an out-of-town company do it, unless we could find a cheaper way to do it ourselves. We'll definitely need to make more space in the facility for it.
Ms. Sandoval, recycling program?
So that's something that a lot of constituents have brought up, but something that also constituents have brought up that they don't want to pay extra for. And if Bethany does have a recycling program, they would have to pay extra for. But we do have that resource from War Acres that people are able to drop off their recycling there.
Thank you very much. Ms. Holloway, 30 seconds. Would you support a recycling plan?
Yes, I would, in the fact that several people that I've talked to have been knocking doors, and there are several people that would like to have that. And people I've talked to would pay up to $5, the ones that I've talked to, extra on the water bill to pay for that. Now, not everybody I've talked to has been for that. So again, we do have recycling currently at War Acres, and also you can go to Southwest 15th in Oklahoma City to dispose of hazardous waste.
Thank you. Mr. Goodwin, do you have a support recycling plan?
Yes, definitely support that is very important, has brought up time and again in knocking doors and talking with people, but also cost has consistently come up. And with the partnership right now with War Acres, might be an option to look and see how that could be grown or could be expanded upon. One particular resident is homebound and not able to get out to take her recycling materials there, so she really wanted a solution. So maybe finding a creative partnership to do that, but doing it in a way where the citizens can't afford it.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Mr. Miller, would you support it?
Yes, I would definitely support a plan. The only question is, what is that plan going to be? Which we look at and talk about. We maybe expand with War Acres and come up with a plan that is affordable for the residents of Bethany. But short answer, yes.
Mr. Hunter.
Well, absolutely. If that's the desire of the citizens, I would support it without a doubt. In conjunction to that, we need to use the staff that are better qualified and more knowledgeable to make the determination, can we do it? Can we do it effectively? Can we do it economically? And do we have other options? And I think there's some other options out there that just need to be explored.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Aycock?
Not a lot of people are aware that Bethany does have a recycling program. You can take your recycling to the recycling center for Bethany, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. I think they've got an hour off somewhere in the middle of the day for lunch, but we do have that currently available now. I'm not sure how much that's getting utilized, but I think that curbside recycling is something that we need to look into. I think it's something that's going to require a lot of polling of the residents of the city to see what their actual desires are. As much as we can say we want it, if the citizens of the city don't, then we need to honor that.
Thank you very much. All right, let's make this a 60-second answer. We'll start with you, Mr. Aycock. Describe Bethany's identity to someone who has never been here.
I would say, the heart of Route 66. That's one of the best ways to describe it. We're right in the middle of 66. It's a great place to be able to, stop on a cross-country trip and hopefully see all the things that the city has to offer. It's, a place to live, grow, and just a great community.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter?
I think I would describe it to those individuals that have never been to Bethany. It's a small town with a small town atmosphere. It has the potential to do great things. We have a beautiful lake to the west where I don't remember who exactly said this, one of the businesses, we're large enough to serve you but small enough to know you. And maybe that should be something we think about, getting more businesses in to provide those necessary services to still keep the small town atmosphere, but to keep it closer to home. Recreational activities, I think, are very important to draw a lot of people. We have some businesses here now, especially the Children's Center, where I think we're probably not putting enough emphasis on their needs as far as housing and recreational activities and those goods and services that we just don't have. So I think small town, friendly, cooperative people trying to show off their city.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller, describe Bethany to somebody who's never been here.
I would say it's a small town with the small town feel in and surrounded by a big city.
Brevity is very nice sometimes, isn't it? Thank you very much. Mr. Goodman?
Definitely. I think if you've ever looked at the Wikipedia for Bethany, which I hadn't until about a month ago, but faith is obviously a large part of the city, has been since its inception. So that is part of the legacy and DNA with Southern Nazarene University and various faith communities. But hopefully as well in the years since, it has been a home to a number of faith communities, a number of other organizations, and can be a welcoming partner to all of those. And I think as well that we need to highlight Southern Nazarene University, the Children's Center, and even Bethany schools as world-class things. The Children's Center is doing world-class type of work and care. Southern Nazarene was ranked as the best college in Oklahoma within the last 2 years. And so those are things to build upon, a sense of pride in our city, and that amongst those, the people that work there are residents from the city and are a part of the city. So those are just a few things that I would describe in a quick conversation with someone, as well as the friendliness and small town feel. So,
thank you very much, sir. Ms. Holloway?
Thank you. I would say we're a 5-mile square city. We are blessed to be such a small city, and we have 2 universities, Southern Nazarene University and Southwestern Christian University. We have 2 public schools, Bethany Public Schools and Putnam City Schools. We also have the Children's Center. We have Southern Plaza Memory Care and Retirement Center. We have Bethany Bank. We have our own post office with our own zip code. We have our library, and we have our YMCA. We also have parks, about 20 parks, and the premier park is Eldon Lyon Park, which is the one that I'd mentioned earlier, that I do want to keep that for the citizens, and I would like to remove that out of the comprehensive plan. But There's other cities that would love to have the park of Eldon Lyon Park, and I do want to protect it. Whenever we were studying the comprehensive plan, one of the things that we learned was that everybody wants green space and parks, and we've got a park that everybody, other cities would want. And,
Thank you, Ms. Holloway.
thank you.
Ms. Sandoval, your turn. What, describe the town to somebody who hasn't been here, the city to somebody who hasn't been here before.
I'm gonna go back as to why my family and I decided to move into Bethany. It's very family friendly. It's many good schools. The friendliness goes beyond wild expectations. Route 66 is an amazing tourist attraction, and it's really good for the citizens and for Bethany. And more than anything, Bethany is a place to plant your roots, and that's where I'm planting my roots here.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hilton.
I would describe it as a smallish town surrounded by Oklahoma City, near to the lake. That's Route 66, 2 colleges.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll get into some philosophical questions. So we'll start with you, Mr. Hilton. Will you stand firm on an issue you know is best for the citizens of Bethany, although you stand alone? How long? 60 seconds, please. Oh, how about 30 seconds? How about 30 seconds for this?
I would argue my case and present evidence. Hopefully, well, most of the time it'd be something that has facts and things like that. So I would present the numbers. Hopefully I could change people's minds, but I still vote the way I want to once it comes to the voting process.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sandoval?
Can you ask the question again?
Sure. Will you stand firm on an issue you know is best for the citizens of Bethany, although you would be alone in that stand?
Oh man, that's a really good question. So I'm a big believer in standing on what I believe in. So if I believe that it's good for the citizens, I would talk to all my colleagues in city council, making sure that we can either find a compromise or, table it for further discussion, because I do believe that I want to vote for something better for the Bethany residents, always.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Holloway?
That's a very good question. I appreciate the question. Yes, I would definitely stand firm on an issue that I thought was best for the city of Bethany and the citizens of Bethany. That has actually happened to me in the past. With the water issue, we were looking for representation, and we were ready to maybe settle on that issue. And I did not want to do that. I went out and researched, found an attorney in New York, got them to fly in here on their own dime, and we got them on contingency basis.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goodwin?
It's very important to stand on conviction, and hopefully in the midst of campaigning and meeting the citizens, they know what you stand for and what you're about, and that you have been able to be actively listening. So would stand on that. But ultimately, once a decision is made, then you have to support your team. You have to support the council and the decision that is made to move forward. But I also think that type of scenario can't be used as inaction. And when, for instance, when the water was discovered that there was a problem in 2008, and the council may be finding out in 2012, and then action not taken until 2016.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller?
Yes, I would definitely stand on my convictions if I was sure I was right to do what was best for the residents of Bethany. I think about jury trials where you are forced to find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If you think he is, you should say so and hold that, unless you have, and try to persuade other people to your case. And if not, and, argue your case as best you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hunter?
Well, I think my reputation speaks for me. My experience as a public servant for those 27 years, I made some tough decisions, and I stuck by some tough decisions. And sometimes everyone didn't agree, but I think providing good intelligence, being able to communicate and educate your position, you may very well provide some information that your other council members may not have. I would also agree that if you are outvoted, if they have persuaded you to look at it from a little different perspective, then obviously you need to, at that point,
Thank you very much. Mr. Aycock.
I would say yes, I would. I think it's important to stick with the decisions that you've made. Once everything is passed and moved on, though, it's also important to continue to work as a team, as a city council, even if my vote didn't reflect the majority of the council. Moving forward, we need to work together. All that said, I would also say that if there is evidence that's being presented to me contrary to my personal beliefs on something, then I'm absolutely willing to look into it and research it more.
All right, thank you very, very much. All right, since Mr. Aycock and Mr. Hilton have been getting the first questions all the time, we'll change it up here a little bit. Start with Ward 2. Mr. Miller, let me start with you. What is, and make this a 60-second answer, please. What is the next step in the 23rd Street and 39th revitalization projects, in your opinion?
Well, right now, they're building a 7-Eleven on 23rd Street in Bethany. And next step, I would say, is to find other businesses that want to move there or are interested in moving to Bethany and talk to them about locations where we can put new businesses in.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Goodwin.
Definitely was able to attend the 23rd Street Vision Group several weeks ago and listened to a group of citizens and city staff that have been meeting for quite a while now, working on this project, and they've had various fundraisers and different things. But I think a key thing is safety and lighting. There was just lights put in at Cash Saver that make a large difference. It can sound like a simple thing, but that is really something that can make a difference for the neighborhood. I also believe the upcoming issue on in this election on the charter change, with currently it's 12 units per acre, and dealing with apartment complex and different things. But to move forward, they're looking to be able to expand that. And when someone wanted to develop, they could come. They would have to go before the city council. So there would still be control there, but it would allow more freedom for people to come in and to bring development in different places of the city, especially on 23rd Street, where there are a number of apartment complexes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holloway.
Thank you. I think it's very important to bring in new businesses, but as I believe safety with lighting and sidewalks is very important. Bringing in the new businesses, I have been involved with 7-Eleven. They purchased the land when I was on the council. It's just, I think their current lease is up across the street, so they're beginning to move forward now, so I'd like to be a part of keeping that momentum going forward. Also, Brahms purchased land whenever I was on the council and cleaned up the area where Captain D's used to be there at the corner of 23rd and Mueller. Some of you may remember that, and so that really made that corner look a lot better. Also on the corner of 23rd and Council in the DeVille area, there was an old automobile place. Again, that's where the 7-Eleven is going, and that corner is cleaned up now. So all of those things I would continue to do.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sandoval, what do you think is the next step in the 23rd Street and 39th revitalization projects?
So more than anything, beautifying these streets so it can attract businesses and family. New business recruitment is something, expanding transportation as well, and promoting Bethany residents to shop local in Bethany to keep tax dollars here in Bethany.
Mr. Hilton.
I believe on 23rd Street, the tower is the centerpiece of the whole street, so that would be the most important thing to develop there. And on 39th, to start looking at the other spaces away from the lakeside.
Thank you, sir. We'll go down to Ward 4, Mr. Aycock. What do you think is the next step there?
Well, I've actually been on the Vision 23 group since just barely after it's starting. So this is something that's very passionate for me about. I think the biggest thing that we can do is getting the population density cap raised. That's going to allow us to be able to do mixed use developments through both 23rd and 39th, where we can have business storefronts along the front, as well as mid-level apartments on second floor and behind. And then from there, it's going to be moving along, cleaning up those areas, increasing curb appeal, anything that will attract new businesses to those areas.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter.
Being last doesn't allow me to come up with anything new, but I say ditto to most of the things that were said, or all the things that were said. We need to concentrate in those areas. I think probably the most important thing to do is to get the communities, both on 39th Street, the business people on 39th Street and 23rd, involved simultaneously. The worst thing that could happen is us have some resistance between those two groups, that one particular area is getting more attention than the other. So I think to accomplish that objective would be active participation by business owners, residents in those areas, and they need to tell us what they want down there. Lighting, I was privy to go to a presentation by the Oklahoma City Police Department fighting crime through better lighting. You know, criminals go away when you turn the light on. They move to somewhere else. Now, obviously, we may not solve all the crime problems, but right now, I would be willing to move them to another city, move them out of Bethany.
Thank you, sir. All right, let me start with you on this next round. This is, let's make these 30-second answers if we could. Mr. Hunter, this one is from our audience. The Pound has a great structure. Have you visited the site? And are you in favor of making necessary repairs?
I'm assuming we're talking about animal control facilities?
I assume so.
Yes, we have, I think we have a pretty much a state-of-the-art facility down there. We have good people there. Mike's been there for 35 years. His assistants are hardworking and very compassionate about the animal care. The only thing that I would and I've said this for many, many years, when we go to War Acres, we can go 2 blocks to the east, and guess what we've got? Another full-fledged, state-of-the-art animal control facility. I would have liked to see something happen years ago where we could.
So I'll tell you what, if your answer's just going to be just a few more seconds, Jill's doing a great job, but if it's 2 or 3 more words, just go for it.
I would like to finish that. I think it would be advantageous for both the city of Bethany and War Acres to combine our animal control and animal protection and use one facility. And right now, like I say, we've got 2 facilities and they're 2 blocks apart. It's not really the best use of our resources.
All right, thank you. Thank you for allowing me that one indiscretion there. All right. Mr. Aycock.
Repeat the question one more time.
Yes. The Pound has a great structure. Have you visited the site? And are you in favor of making any necessary repairs?
Unfortunately, I've not been there yet. I do have plans to get over there very soon. I've actually got a load of dog toys that I came across that I will be delivering over there. But no, I'm absolutely supportive of maintaining it, developing it, increasing the quality for the animals that are there in the time that they're there.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go to ward number 2, Mr. Miller.
Yes, I have visited the animal control, and I would support improving it or if necessary, but with War Acres having a Pound just down the street, we might need to consider options to save money, the more cost effective with combining the 2 animal shelters and combining our efforts.
Thank
Might
you,
be
sir.
better use of resources.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Goodwin.
Thank you. Like I said, my current role is the Chief Operating Officer at the Oklahoma Humane Society, so this is an area close to my heart, and believe that where animals are treated well, that people are going to be treated well and fare well. And whenever you have to euthanize an animal, it can be a stressful thing. It's a painful thing for a family, or if you've lost a pet, it's hard for the staff. I was at Bethany Animal Welfare just a couple of weeks ago and talked with Brittany there, and it's very clean. They take great care of it. You can be proud in the way that they're caring for the animals that have to come in. And one thing I'd like to see is a volunteer program for there to be able to increase some adoptions and a bit of those live outcomes.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Ms. Holloway.
Yes, I definitely would be interested in upgrading. I actually, again, when I was on the council previously, we did upgrades to our current facility, and that's why it looks as good as it does now whenever you go inside. Also, my husband was so good whenever he worked for a particular company, they would donate dog food to the animal control facility also. We also have a rescue dog, so that's Luke. He's a good guy. But I would have to study and research to see about putting the 2 animal control facilities together. I will always do that. Whatever issue comes up, I will research it, look at it, study it, and I will give an educated vote as to what we need to do in the city of Bethany.
Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Ms. Sandoval?
So yes, recently I have visited because I lost my cat Bella, so I have recently visited. So fully funding our animal shelter should be a top priority. They only have capacity right now for 30 dogs and 30 cats, and I feel like we need to push for more funding for renovations and expanding the animal shelter.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hilton?
Well, if it needs repairs, then we definitely should go ahead and do it. The combining the two is interesting, but that'll definitely be in the future than what is needed right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your answers. Getting into some city council weeds here on some of these questions. I appreciate that. Let's do 60 seconds on this one. I'll start with you, Mr. Hilton. What is the most important charter revision and why?
I think the apartment charter revision is most important. They can't even modify them the way it is now, and they've gotten pretty run down at this point.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sandoval?
Yes, so the charter revision for the 12 square unit and apartments is the most important one, because right now they're just limited to doing a little bit of paints and a little bit of rugs. But being able to renovate it, I am a big proponent for that, because I believe it is really important and it improves the quality of life for our Bethany residents here.
Thank you so much. Ms. Holloway?
I've been asked this question before, and what I think is the most important about those issues, they're going to a vote of the people. And all I can say is I want to encourage everyone to study these, know what is the good and what is the bad, and then vote your heart. Once you, the citizens, have voted for whatever you choose, I will fully support that, as I always have done whenever the council has made a decision to vote on something. I may not agree with something, it's kind of like we were talking earlier, but I will stand my ground. But once a decision is made, and I may have voted a different way, if the majority of the council votes for it, I will support it. And that's the way I feel about the citizens voting. You're our voice. Use your voice, and please go vote, and I will support what you want me to do.
Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Mr. Goodwin?
Thank you. I would just respectfully say to colleague here that in our Ward 2 forum just a few weeks ago, it was mentioned that of the citizens being apathetic when it comes to getting involved in things like this, which I refuted that day. And as I've heard people talk over these last weeks, the charter issue that they have talked about the most has been the residence requirement for various places within the city government, for our city manager, an attorney, and judge, these different things. And that, although we want someone to live in Bethany, and we believe when we go and look for the best woman or man for that position, that hopefully eventually that they would move into the city, but that we have the ability to look outside of that for the best possible person, the most qualified person to help us move forward. There's been some inconsistency over the last couple of years, and we've all talked about that and heard about that. So moving forward, those are key positions that must be filled to help with these plans and moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Mr. Miller?
Yes, I think they're all important issues, and the voters of Bethany will decide what they want to do. I, of course, cannot vote, as it would be, I was taught, it would be unethical to cast a ballot for myself, and to avoid the appearance of impropriety, have never and will never vote in an election in which my name is on the ballot.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter?
I have a difficult time prioritizing these, and I look at it from to a little different perspective. As a voter, I have a right to an opinion on each one of those 5 resolutions, and whether I agree or disagree, I don't think is a topic that is appropriate to discuss as a council member or potential council member. I have to agree with Mrs. Holloway. The citizens are making these decisions. They are going to decide whether this passes or fails. And as a council member, we don't have any control over that. Once it's done, it's done. And I think the voice of the citizens should be heard, and the results of those voices should be supported by the council and make that transition as smooth as possible. But I do believe that the density requirement is, if we're going to utilize the comprehensive plan, we have got to get that 12 units per acre abolished. So we have room for new types of business, not necessarily multi-housing and apartment complexes, but multi-use facilities that allow us to expand our current way of doing business.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Aycock.
Well, I do agree with what's been said as well, that, this is a vote of the people. But for me personally, what I believe the number one issue is of all that, as has been said by many, is the population density. As the governor said this morning, or I guess this afternoon, we need more taxpayers, not more taxes. Raising that population density cap is going to allow us to put in mixed-use buildings along with our economic development as we're building new storefronts, being able to add in residency areas on top of them and behind them, which will help increase our population as well.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to go back down this way again. Let's do 60 seconds on this question from the audience. When hiring the next city manager, do you prefer someone local or the best candidate in general? Mr. Aycock, if you go first, please.
Repeat the question one more time.
When hiring the next city manager, do you prefer someone local or the best candidate in general?
I think there's a lot of merit to both of those. I definitely think it needs to be somebody local. That said, the state law is, I believe, within 10 miles of Bethany. I still consider that local. So I think being able to expand that out to that 10 miles and having the best candidate available is going to be the most important thing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter.
Without a doubt, we should be pursuing the best candidate for that job. The man or woman that can do the best job for this city, bring us skill sets and knowledge. Whether they live in the city or not may not be the deciding factor, but again, that's a resolution going to the vote of the people, and they're going to make that decision. It's not going to be a council decision. That is one of the resolutions on the ballot. Can the city manager live within 10 miles of the city? And they're going to say yay or nay. And unfortunately, that may not get us the best candidate currently for that job. So there's going to be a difference of opinion there, and we can only hope that the voters vote the right way.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller.
Yes, I think we should definitely pursue the best candidate for the job. That said, having somebody who is known by the council and trusted by the council coming in is a beneficial, was beneficial and is arguably a job prerequisite, or helps make them more well qualified than what the it looks like on the paper possibly. So local could be more qualified if the council knows them and trusts them.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Goodwin.
I addressed this in my previous answer just a little bit, but just reiterate, I feel like that we need to be able to explore the most qualified candidate, whether they live in Bethany or they live within the 10 or 15 miles, the statute there on the charter. But I think we see from those running tonight, from people who have been here a couple years and people who have been here 60 years, that it's not hard to fall in love with this city. So believe in that whoever would be chosen by the staff, by the people, by the council would be someone who's going to fall in love with the city. I don't think that's a question. I think the question is, how do we find the right woman or man at this time for the job?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holloway.
Thank you. I don't think we have to be limited within 10 miles of the city of Bethany. I mean, if there's someone within the city of Bethany, that's great, but we could hire someone from another state. And yes, I definitely would want to hire the best candidate. If it would be someone from outside the state of Oklahoma, I still would want them to be familiar with Oklahoma municipal law, Bethany municipal law, and Oklahoma state laws. That's very important for a city manager to know those. You did say city manager?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very beneficial for them to be familiar with our laws. And but again, I'm not limiting myself to anything. I would want to look at and find the best person whatever state they're in.
Thank you. Ms. Sandoval?
So for me, it'd be the best candidate in general. We don't have enough candidates from within our city, and I want someone who shares the same passion of growing and building a city as much as we do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hilton?
I agree that we could get them out of state, the best candidate, but they've moved into Bethany the last 2 times, so I don't see why they can't do it this time also.
All right, thank you very much. Well, let's get into some of the love part of the program today. And let's go back down here to ward number 4. We'll start with you, Mr. Raycock. The fun question of the evening here. Let's make this 60-second answers from our audience. What makes you more qualified than your opponent?
Well, I think both my opponent and I are very qualified for this job. I have nothing negative to say about my opponent. The biggest thing that differentiates us, Mr. Hunter has been in Bethany for a long time. He knows the city in and out, but he's also been a city employee for a long time. I feel like there's been opportunity in the past that he might have been able to make changes. I'm coming in with fresh eyes, a new perspective. As I said, I have only been here 2.5 years. So I've been in other communities. I've seen how things are done in other areas. And I'm excited to bring in those new views and new opportunities into the city.
Thank you, Mr. Raycock. Mr. Hunter?
Well, I appreciate what Mr. Aycock says, but Mr. Aycock is wrong. I have done a lot for this city. I spent 27 years in the fire department. I made dramatic, radical changes in the fire department. New fire engines, new EMS service, renovation of the fire department. I've made a tremendous amount of good. And when I say me, I'm just kind of defending myself here, but I give that credit to the members of the Bethany Fire and Rescue. They are the ones that got this done. The council giving us the money to buy those fire trucks. This was, again, an effort by everyone involved. As far as me doing anything politically, no, I did nothing politically. That was not my job. I could not do anything politically during my tenure as fire chief. When I retired as of March 31st of 2018, I made the decision almost immediately, I think I can do something good as a council member for the city. And I still believe that. I believe I'm the best candidate. I have the qualifications. I have the education. I have the resolve. I have the voice. And you can trust me to be a strong voice for Ward 4 candidates and support the administration and the employees of this city. With no bias, I have no friends, I have no enemies, I have nobody to pay back, I have no markers to be called. So, yeah, I've done a lot.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Miller, what makes you the best qualified guy?
That's a very good question. I am going to let the voters of Bethany, of Ward 2 particularly, decide who's best qualified for this particular job. We shall see. I think my strong ethics help. But I'll let the voters decide who's the best qualified candidate for this job.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Goodwin?
I mentioned my nonprofit experience, and I very much enjoy getting to work in that arena. You might have seen on the front page of the Oklahoman this past week a proposal from the Oklahoma Humane Society for a new campus, and that would be downtown. That's a $20 million request for proposal. It would be a dream campus and for animal welfare, not only in our city but across the state, and has been a tremendous learning experience in various different realms of planning, of infrastructure, and various things. But to be quite honest, and I do have much respect for Mrs. Holloway, and it's been very lovely. We got to meet here several weeks ago. But the main thing that encouraged me to run was her voting record, and that I am very against it. The only council member to vote against the comprehensive plan, even if it was for the park. Every other council member voted for it. My daughters are at the Bethany Public School and argued against and abstained from voting for the STEM building. And those things got me fired up, and I want to be a part of helping move things forward.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Ms. Holloway?
I think my education, as I mentioned earlier, a certified municipal official, and I would continue my education. I also have helped with securing fire trucks for the citizens of Bethany for the fire department. I know the ins and outs of doing these things, and I also was involved with the $10 million water plant, buying smaller things like police vests and computers, and again, for the fire department, breathing apparatus. But the city of Bethany needs someone that can hit the ground running and will, again, look at each issue, study it, and vote what's best for the citizens of Bethany. And if that's a no vote, then I can carry that very well. I have broad shoulders if I think it's the best thing to do. I will continue to work for the betterment of Bethany and for the citizens, and always support the schools and support the Children's Center, the universities, the comprehensive plan, our parks. All those things are yours. I've been very involved in the library, getting the new library, and was involved in that before, or just a few years ago. So I'm very excited about that. It should be within the next few months that opens.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holloway. Ms. Sandoval.
So I have experience in community mobilizing. I have worked in the nonprofit development for the past couple years. I'm an OSU grad, go Pokes, with a Bachelor's of Political Science, and I'm currently about to pursue an MBA. And I have a plan for a neighborhood association and a Bethany Youth Council. For me, my mindset is citizens first, and I want to do a lot of positive collaboration. And more than anything, I want to make Bethany a competitive city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Mr. Helton.
I don't have a degree in political science, but I have worked on the Parks Board and the Branding and Logo Task Force, so I've been involved with the city for about 2 years now.
Thank you, sir. Let's get back into the weeds here just a moment, Mr. Helton. I'll start with you. Describe how to best to use capital improvement funds versus general budget funds.
I didn't hear it. What was it?
The question was best use of capital improvement funds versus general budget funds.
I guess their names sort of describe it, doesn't it?
How many people vote to not go forward anymore with this question? I'm not really sure this was going to ring everybody's chime. Let me ask you this one. Let me start on this one. What are your thoughts on interlocal agreements? Do you find them integral in making the city grow?
Yeah, we're landlocked by all our neighboring cities, so it's extremely necessary.
Can you
Thank
ask
you,
that
sir.
question again?
The question is what are your thoughts? This is 30 seconds, by the way. What are your thoughts on interlocal agreements? Do you find them integral to making the city grow?
So we have partners where necessary, but we need to be able to develop our independence. I am a proponent for having those kind of agreements, and they'll make Bethany thrive, but more than anything, we need to be able to survive without them and become as independent as possible.
Thank you. Ms. Holloway?
Okay, whenever you say that, it makes me think of ACOG, and interlocal agreements is where we work together with other cities with fire protection and police, sheriff, those types of things. And yes, I certainly do support that where we help another city or another city comes to help us.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Goodwin?
There's probably a number of different partnerships that could be encompassed within this question, at least as I'm hearing it. But I don't think we need to be exclusionary. If there are partnerships or things that can help the residents of Bethany and help us with things similar to what was mentioned earlier with the partnership with Ward Acres on recycling, if there can be a positive fusion there, I don't want to shy away from that just because, we don't want to be involved with another city. I want to have open arms for that when it's going to serve the best interest here and can be a win-win situation.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, we should definitely partner with other cities as it can benefit us, or we can help benefit them. But priority, of course, is for us as potential councilmen in Bethany is benefit to Bethany. And if it does, we should definitely pursue such options as joint recycling with Ward Acres, perhaps, or combining the pounds and stuff like that should be considered as options, and various other things that we should look at.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter?
I think in many cases, our discussion is more about maintaining our autonomy as opposed to entering in with formal interlocal agreements such as mutual aid agreements for police and fire. We could not survive. That the fire department in the city of Bethany would work very poorly without a mutual aid agreement with War Acres, Yukon, Oklahoma City. The police department depends on the bomb squad and the SWAT team from Oklahoma County. We've had Brian Mogg do some great things for us because of our coordination between municipal and county governments. So absolutely, we must have these interlocal agreements and mutual aid agreements because they benefit both parties. And we tend to get more benefit than we give in some of these.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Aycock?
I absolutely agree with what Mr. Hunter said. Being able to provide the utmost safety for our community is key. One thing that I've heard from several residents as I've been going around is how much they appreciate having our own police department and our own fire department, knowing that when they need to make a call, they're there right away. So it's important to have that, to have our own things, to be our own entity. But being able to rely on support from the surrounding cities, as small land-wise as our city is absolutely critical.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, transparency's been raised tonight. Let me start with you, Mr. Miller, on this one. You mentioned transparency. This will be a 30-second answer for our group tonight. Do you know of any conflict of interest issues that may cause you to abstain from votes? If so, what are those issues?
I do not. I am affiliated with SNU and Southern Plaza, so something could conceivably come up related to those. I currently work at Southern Plaza, so issues where they are petitioning for the city could force me to abstain, I suppose.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Goodwin?
The only thing I can think of would be in my current role at the Oklahoma Humane Society, we're one of the main partners with the City of Oklahoma City Animal Welfare. So if there was some kind of joint agreement that was going to be between Bethany Animal Welfare and Oklahoma City Animal Welfare, although I could lend voice and opinion to that, that may require abstaining from voting, but that's the only thing I could think of.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holloway?
No, there's nothing that I can think of that would be a conflict, and I've also tried to, in my campaigning, assure the citizens that I will not be tied to anyone. I'm not accepting money from any person or any entity. I am campaigning on my own, so I'm not beholden to anyone or any institution to vote a certain way, and I will always, again, research, look at the situation, and vote what is the best for the city and for the citizens.
Thank you. Ms. Sandoval?
So as of now, I have no conflict of interest with the city of Bethany. So I trust my constituents to help me, keep me accountable, and I'll hold regular neighborhood meetings and updates to ensure that I remain accessible with the citizens first mindset that I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Elton?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Mr. Aycock, any conflicts of interest?
Yes, my wife actually does work for the city. She's in the community development department. So there may be a few things where I have to recuse myself from a vote if it was something that would deal with things like city employee pay, benefits, those kind of things that could have a financial impact on my family. I would need to recuse myself from that. But for the most part, I don't see any conflicts there.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter?
Absolutely not. My affiliation with the fire department, I think you can ask the people that I've worked with all those years, they would probably say he would be more likely to really scrutinize his decisions as a coach would with putting his own son in a ball game, so there's no implication of impropriety. Just because I went to SNU doesn't mean that I favor SNU over OU or OSU or any other college, so it's a matter of integrity. You either have it or you don't.
Thank you very much. Let's start with Ward 2 on this question. I'll start with you, Ms. Holloway. This will be a 60-second answer, please. New governor gave his state of the state today. Is the state of Oklahoma a good partner with the city of Bethany in projects? Should they be doing more for municipalities?
Yes, I think that would be great. When I was on the council before, Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb, I sat down and talked with him, and Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb said, Bethany is a hidden gem within the metro area. So, and I do know that Governor Stitt and Lieutenant Governor Pennell are interested in the city of Bethany and within the Route 66 and how we might be able to tie those things together and be able to bring more business, more visitors. What my goal is to bring people into Bethany, not Bethany citizens having to go out from Bethany. If we don't have the economic development, the places for people to come, we can promote Route 66. There's people that travel from Japan, from all over the world, to travel Route 66, and that's something that's very exciting to me, is to work with Lieutenant Governor Matt Pennell on something like that.
Thank you. Mr. Goodwin.
Thank you. Yes, I know our current mayor, Westmoreland, has met with the Lieutenant Governor just recently on that, on the Route 66 discussion, really with Bethany being the heart of that and beginning to further develop that, maybe even entrances into the city, a gateway into the city, and finding ways to further do that. I think also looking at other projects, there's been discussions with OG&E and others, other large organizations statewide that might be of benefit to the city in improving lighting and various things. But definitely having conversation with those key stakeholders and legislators at the state level needs to be a constant conversation, and we'll look forward to those types of conversations.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller.
Yes, we definitely should be good partners with the state. I'm not sure how the relationship is currently. I'm not in the know on such things, but we have a mayor who can and has and should interact with the state level officials to figure out what to do, and the acting city manager to figure out how we can work together to make Route 66 thrive in this area. And I know there's current plans or discussion about plans for the city to take over the management of Route 66 as it runs through Bethany. And that's a way we partner with the state.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter.
I think we currently have some of those partnerships in place. State Emergency Management helps police and fire, EMS. We have, I think, travel and tourism might be a huge boost to the 39th Street corridor or Route 66. There's grant programs that are available that, while they may come from the federal government, they have to be approved by the state. So there's competition for that, need normally being the most logical reason why you get or you don't get that grant. So I think having those relationships and having those people in place, like the mayor, very active, and talking to, regardless of who it is, whether it be state, county, or other cities, I think it's very important that we cultivate those relationships.
Mr. Aycock.
I agree with everything that everybody has said, that the relationship with the state is key. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes with the Route 66 project that's been getting underway. And I would also like to applaud our mayor for the work that he's done with developing those relationships with the state.
Thank you very much. We'll just stay with this, be at 60-second answers on this one. A lot of people talking about first responders. Oh, I am so sorry. Ms. Sandoval, could you answer that last question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, of course. So absolutely, I'm against preemption and emphasizing local control, whether it's wages or getting more individuals to help with Route 66. The governor is focused on marketing Oklahoma, and Bethany really needs to be on top of that list. Education is key to being on top, and I need to speak with ODOT for like 23rd revitalization projects going on. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hilton.
I didn't see the state of the state. I was busy, but it seems that things are pretty good right now, as long as it doesn't raise state taxes or anything.
All right, thank you very much. I'll start with you, Mr. Aycock, on this. Next one, we'll do 60-second answers. Council doing everything they need to do to support fire and police officers in this community?
At the moment, I feel like they are. I'm looking forward to understanding those relationships better and seeing how all of that weaves together. I'm very proud of the fire department and police department that we have in the city, and hope to see them continue to thrive.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter.
Well, having an intimate knowledge of police and fire, I would say absolutely. In the last few years, the council, the relationship between the council and police and fire has been wonderful. We've gotten what we need. Depending on who you ask on any given day, there may be something that someone would think they needed or didn't get and thought they might have got the short end of the stick. But I think for the most part, the city council, the taxpayers, I mean, they're the ones paying for this, and the heads of those departments have done an excellent job in providing the men and women what they need to do their job effectively. We have a very low incident of, I can't remember the last time we had a fatality in a structure fire. It's been several years. The police do a great job, so I would say yes, we're doing a pretty good job right now. I hope that continues in the future. I hope we never have a breakdown of that relationship where they're not getting what they need to do their job.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller.
I defer to Chief Hunter's knowledge of the subject. He says the council's doing what they need to do for the police and fire. I'll take his word for it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Goodwin.
Have had a couple of situations where I've had to call police for various things and issues, and just say their response time was incredible. They're very professional in how they handled situations. So it's great to hear that this relationship has been well over these past few years, and that would continue to be such. I can just say from personal experience with them, they've been very professional and more than adequate.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Holloway.
Thank you. I'm not privy to what all the current city council is doing currently, but in the past, as I've already mentioned, I was involved in getting 2 fire trucks in the last recent years. I say recent. Do you remember what year that was we got the 2 fire trucks?
It would have been 3.5 years ago.
Okay. So I was involved in getting those fire trucks for the safety of the citizens. And as I mentioned earlier too, for the fire department, getting them breathing apparatus, for the police department, updating their computers for their cars and getting them bulletproof vests. I would definitely be interested in continuing to do things that help our city and our departments to protect our citizens. That's what a city is supposed to do, is to provide and protect for our citizens, and I will do that. One of the things that I would do is support upgrading our server within our city. We need to upgrade technology, and for our fire and police department, that is very important, and I would definitely support that.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Sandoval.
Hi, do you mind asking that question again?
I think the question was, is the city council doing everything it can to support police and fire?
Okay, so that's a really good question. You know what, I will say I commend a lot of public servants because they have been doing a good job. I take pride in my Bethany police, so much that even my husband is trying to join the Bethany police force here. But I have been having a couple meetings with a lot of fire department and police officers, and they do believe that there needs to be a little bit more communication with city councilors, as well as their negotiations for longevity to not only recruit but retain their public servants. So more than anything, people that are in Bethany, they actually go to other cities to go and serve. And more than anything, we need to retain them here to protect us and serve us because they are our public servants and we need to respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Helton.
I'm going to have to take Mr. Hunter and Amanda's word for it of what's happening right now.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll do one last question before we move into closing discussions. So people go to the polls to elect leaders. Tell us, if you're elected, Mr. Helton, what kind of a leader that the voters would expect if you are elected.
I will
Let's do 60, please.
always have the public's ear. I won't start going off on some crazy ideas or anything like that. And I will cooperate with the rest of the city council, but not in the way that's just sort of agreeing with everything everyone else is saying.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sandoval.
So, like I said, I'm going to have citizens first mindset all the way through. One thing that I have been talking to my constituents, I have an orange car. It's pretty out there, and people know where I live because of that. And I let them know really bluntly. I'm like, please hold me accountable if you have any concerns. To please, once again, I really want to be with the citizens first mindset, and I want to be that kind of leader and counselor once I am elected.
Thank you very much. Ms. Holloway?
As I had stated previously, you can expect me to research every item, to go out and spend above and beyond time to get what the citizens need. When I helped secure the attorneys that we needed so that we were not to protect our water wells. And in that action, it prevented us from paying thousands of dollars a month to protect our water wells, to putting that on a contingency plan so that we have attorneys that this is what they do every day to protect cities' water. So I would go above and beyond. I would plead my case before the other council members. If I felt like what they were about to do, I would do the same thing again. I would go out, secure information, had that company come in on their own dime. They presented to the city council in a special called meeting, and after they heard the presentation from the attorneys, it was a unanimous vote to hire them to protect our water so that it didn't go into the future that we have to pay for the problems that other institutions have caused the city of Bethany. So again, I would continue to work hard for the citizens so that this is not taking the money out of your pockets to spend.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Goodwin, what kind of leader could voters expect if they elect you to the council?
Would be a leader that would listen. And also would be one that is not afraid to take action. We actually still do pay money each month to the city of Oklahoma City for the right to be able to use their water if there is contamination, if it comes towards us. So we are still paying on that. So to be able to take action in a timely manner to improve that for the future, looking at ways to improve the water situation, possibly through this TIF, even the upcoming one that's being proposed. So would research situations, would want to be well informed, but would not be afraid to take action and set action steps now and not years in the future.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller.
Yes, I would be the sort of leader who would listen to the concerns of all the residents and debate with the colleagues on the council, decide what needed to be done, and once I'd made up my mind, I would vote that way and bang the table if I needed. Oh, no, probably not do that because that's not my style. But argue as forcefully as I could for my position before the vote of votes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hunter.
I would hope if I'm elected because people trust me. They have faith in what I say, that I'll be a strong voice for the constituents and for the city of Bethany. I think the city has three things that it's responsible for. A city exists for providing for the health, the safety, and the welfare of the community. We could talk for 30 minutes about what that entails, and every one of us has mentioned something that would fit into that health, safety, or welfare. I would hope that they would trust me enough, put their confidence in me, and support me as I would support them. Then I'm going to make the best decision every single time. I'm going to try to do the right thing based on the information that I get from both the community and from staff and administration, and that in conjunction with the other 7 people and the mayor on this council, that we make good decisions, which is good for everybody. And leading by example is huge. Leading by reputation and with integrity and honesty and consistency and fairness and being equitable. You know, I could use a lot of adjective also, but I would hope that's why they elect me. If they choose to elect me, it's based on they trust me to do what I'm telling them I'm going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Aycock.
I'll listen to the people, represent the people, and have their best interests in mind. I'll be available to the people. The email address and phone number that's in all of my campaign materials will continue to be active if I get elected, as well as my social media pages. I want any and all avenues of communications to be available to me so that I can represent the people of the ward and the people of the city. Additionally, in terms of leadership, I believe one of the biggest parts of leadership is building up other people, developing others, encouraging and supporting. And I want to see our community be more civically minded. I want to see more people involved, more people running for public office, and help to encourage and support that growth.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to move to closing. Your closing pitches. This is the 1-minute elevator pitch on why people should vote for you when it comes to election time. These are going to be 1-minute closing statements by each of you. We'll go by ward. There was a drawing, I understand, before the began, and the way that they're going to go in Ward 1, going first will be Amanda Sandoval, and Mr. Helton will go second. In Ward 2, the draw came up, Matthew Goodwin going first, Kathy Holloway going second, Gary Miller going third, and in Ward 4, Mr. Hunter will go first, followed by Mr. Aycock. Is that correct? We're ready to go? All right, let's start with Ward 1. Going first and closing arguments will be Ms. Sandoval. Floor is yours.
So I want to thank you all for coming out and really showing a lot of community involvement. I really appreciate it. Just letting you all know, I did find my cat. I forgot to let you know. Might scare some of y'all. So I have lived in Bethany half my life, and I will plant my roots here. I am passionate and will always listen to my constituents, and I want Bethany to survive and thrive. Once again, I want to promote economic development, infrastructure, and community involvement. And I hope you all vote on February 12th and make your voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval. Mr. Helton, floor is yours.
I will work to make this city the best that it can be. I don't really have a closing statement.
That's pretty good. Thank you for doing that. All right, we'll move to Ward number 2. First up will be Mr. Goodwin.
Yes, thank you. If elected, these things are interesting as we get into politics and the various platitudes and having to promote yourself. But I firmly believe I have great experience that would lend itself to this. Thoroughly enjoyed getting to meet various residents, hundreds of residents over the last few weeks, and enjoying the conversations and finding out what they care about, finding out really what my neighbors are going through. Everything from people building houses and getting new jobs to a couple that was on fixed income and struggling, and these issues that we talk about, whether it be a bond issue or whether it be a code issue, these things really affect their daily lives. And so being able to come in and to listen, really try to make positive change for the city and also for each individual, that's the kind of leader I want to be, to continue listening, but to be strategic in setting action plans to see momentum keep going forward that has happened in these last couple of years.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Next, Ms. Holloway.
Thank you. I've been walking and knocking doors and talking to citizens and listening to what they have to say and making notes. I would continue to do that. I have been very happy to get to meet these gentlemen, Matthew and Gary, and the others in the other wards also. I just believe that I have more knowledge in municipal government, and so I do think I would make the better candidate, the better city council member. These guys are great, but you do need somebody that has the education and the experience to work for you to continue the momentum forward that's been started. I would bring cooperation to the council. I would work with the council, but I would stand for what I think is best and be sure that every person is heard. You need to listen to each council person and their ideas and not hold them back, not make them feel like they can't speak what they have to say. That's where we can come to an agreement and make a educated vote within the council. I do want to, again, continue the progress forward that has been started in the city many years ago and is continuing on. And I just want that momentum and cooperation to go forward for the city of Bethany. So please vote Kathy Holloway on February the 12th.
Thank you very much. And last, in Ward 2, but not least, Mr. Miller.
Yes, and first I'd like to say, Amanda, I'm glad to hear you found your cat, because I was under the impression you said he had died, so I must have misheard you the first time around. So, thanks for that add-on. And furthermore, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I appreciate any support given to me. I would like to represent the people of Ward 2 and Bethany at large. Well, don't actually represent Bethany at large, but, you know. And I would, and I'd be honored to be your representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. The cat people are very happy tonight at this particular. All right, and we're going to go last to Ward 4. The order for 1-minute closing arguments is Mr. Hunter and Mr. Aycock, beginning with Mr. Hunter.
Well, on my handouts during my door-to-door campaigning, one of my statements was the right person at the right time for the right reasons. I believe I am the right person based on my knowledge, my experience, my skill sets, my proven leadership, both as a public servant to this city for 27 years, graduate of Leadership Bethany, graduate of the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association leadership class, which is not easy to get into. I have demonstrated that I can get things done, that I am a strong voice, I am a consistent voice, and I believe that that qualifies me as the best person for this job. But again, that is up to the citizens of this community. I would urge you to think about why you vote and why you vote for a particular person, what you want in your candidate, and make a good, solid decision. Vote for somebody at least, but preferably for me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hunter. And last closing statement tonight with Ward 4, Mr. Aycock.
Thank you. The last 7 or so weeks since we all filed has been amazing. Getting to go door to door, meeting the residents of the community, talking to everybody in Ward 4, hearing what's important to them. The first thing that I ask everybody is there any questions you have that I can pass on to the existing council or that I can work on if I get elected? And just hearing those responses, hearing what's important to the people in our community has just been a great experience. We have a whole bunch of great candidates up here. I don't think there's anybody that will do a bad job representing the city. I will say the biggest thing is that you vote. Make sure you know what the questions are that are on the ballot as well as city council members. Make sure you're informed and prepared to go out to the polls and be there on February 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Aycock. And let's give a big round of applause to the folks who put themselves up this evening. I'd have to say you all did a very fine job tonight. I think the voters are much more informed than before. Let me say also thanks to the folks who sponsored this. Thanks to Cox Channel 20 for carrying this, and the sponsors Bethany Tribune and Northwest Oklahoma City Chamber. Thank you, Jill, for all the hospitality. Let me also remind you, besides the election, that Thursday, be a couple, 3 days from now, the Bethany Breakfast. I noticed that there are donuts and coffee on this sign. I'm sure it's truth in advertising. And at the bottom, the things that matter to Americans where it says free. Everybody loves that part of it, right? At the Pinto Horse Association of America on 7330 Northwest 23rd. Connect with business neighbors, meet the city council candidates. You want to do that, what better than meet a candidate and donuts and coffee at the same time. Get a briefing on Bethany's economic development projects and a Q&A about the February 12th city charter election. That's very, very important. We'll also say thanks to the city of Bethany. What a great community, great school, great football team. I'd like to also introduce my driver, the pride of the Luther Lions, Class 2A Scholastic Champions this year, Joey Mitchell, who looks much like his mother, and he's very grateful for that. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Thank you for being civically involved. We need more of that in America. Jill, over to you.
Sure. Well, we wanted to say a big thank you for our moderator, Scott Mitchell. Let's give him a hand. really kept it all. We want to thank Barry and the team for the AV and for also providing this on Facebook Live tonight. We want to thank the City of Bethany for allowing us to use the location. We also want to say a huge thank you to all of the council members who will not be serving anymore, the seats that you are taking. Let's give them a hand. Several of them are here tonight. And I understand that next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we will have an opportunity to recognize and honor them. And so please do come early for city council meeting for that special recognition next Tuesday. I hope I didn't just let the cat out of a bag. Next Tuesday. It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Yes, it is tomorrow. Yes. And then the Bethany breakfast is next Tuesday or next Thursday, and then Monday is the council, special meeting on the charter next Monday. Okay, there's lots of things going on. So thank you for having us tonight. We really want to thank the Tribune also for being the co-host on this with us. And thanks, Matt and Haley. Thank you.